Thank you very much for coming out tonight and joining us at the TMX. This has been an amazing honor. George and I met a little while ago, and we met, I believe, at one of our demos and stuff. And George and I became quickly friends, and we realized that nobody in the space was talking about the investment opportunities at the greater scale. All the VCs that are invested in virtual and augmented reality are. Can we turn off the radio, maybe? Okay. All the VCs that are invested in the space are actually, doing all the VR meetups, and they're going to the VR conferences, but nobody's speaking to the outside world. So we have this kind of echo chamber of VR people talking to each other, and VR is so awesome, it's amazing. But if outside that echo chamber, we're not really making progress. So we decided a few years ago to really focus and double down on promoting ourselves to the greater business and being an enterprise solution for that. So I'm going to just proceed with my presentation today, and hopefully we can get the music off. But this is a little bit of what we've done in the last 16 months. So that's a little bit about what we've done. Thanks. Awesome. As you can see, it was a bunch of different things. And we took a really broad approach to virtual reality because when we started this endeavor about 3 years ago, I got into VR, and I said, okay, we're going to do this. And I was like, we're going to get into VR. No idea what to do. I knew that consumer adoption of virtual and augmented reality was going to take at least 5 years. And that was, 2 years ago. So imagine, here we are 2 years into VR. Last year, all the headsets launched. We've got this kind of huge momentum, all this hype. And companies like CCP, which is a large gaming company, just announced yesterday that they're actually getting out of VR because they realize there's just no money in the consumer side of it. Where the money is right now is the enterprise, and that's going to be the same. That's going to be the way for the next 3 years as consumer builds up into the larger picture. So we are North America's leading virtual and augmented reality product company. We are also a consultancy. So what we do is we consult with large brands to figure out what their strategy is and how to use this technology across the enterprise. And so we're still in the middle of kind of figuring out POCs or proof of concepts and figuring out what works for these people and what is actually necessary. We've identified really 2 key areas of the business that we're going to focus in on. I'll talk about it in a second. We were named Top 100 Rising Startups with Tech Week, and we also were nominated VR Startup of the Year globally. We didn't win it. The awards was the other day, and we didn't win, but it was pretty awesome to be nominated. And we also are founding members of the Virtual and Augmented Reality Association, and I'm on the Enterprise Committee. I'm the co-chair of the Enterprise Committee. So we're actually writing an article right now for Forbes on virtual and augmented reality for enterprise. Some of the clients we've worked with, you may recognize some of the brands up there. There's some we can't announce yet, but really, really cool stuff. We've done a huge, diverse amount of things. One of the cool things that you saw in the video was augmented reality sandbox. And literally it's a projector shining down with two Kinects, and it allows you to dig out the sand. And as you change the topography of the sand, it changes the projection on the sand. So we did that for Kubota. So they have like little tractors inside this huge tractor trailer that goes across Canada. And they're expected to have 1 million people go through that this year. So pretty exciting. Some of the products we've developed in the 16 months that we've been doing this, our VR photo booth has been used at TIFF. We just got back last week from the Samsung Developers Conference. It's been used at the Taste of Danforth, and it will be rolled out as a product starting in 2018 as a product for sale and lease for large marketing companies. The second product is our WebAR platform, which we built for Shoppers Drug Mart, and it allows you to use augmented reality without any app. You just go to a web browser and it works. That was really hard. It was really, really hard, and I want to thank Charlie and his team for helping put that together, because it was a really ridiculous undertaking. I kind of sold it before we had a solution, as you do. And the great thing about that is we actually developed 2 products out of that, and one of them is AR business cards. So I don't know if you guys saw our AR business cards, they explode, but we're building a self-serve platform that allows anybody to have their own augmented reality business cards. So we'll launch that at CES this year. I'm also speaking at CES in the high-tech retail sector. So we've also done a ton of different services, but we're going to be focusing on the 2 main parts of our business, and that is 3D asset creation. So every product you see in the world, from this podium to the microphone to the computer to a bottle of water, is going to need to be created in 3D for the future of e-commerce. And so we're working on a very fast way of doing that in a workflow that will allow us to partner with companies like Amazon and Alibaba to really do all their products in a very short amount of time. So let's talk about virtual reality and where we've come. We've come a long, long way in a very short amount of time. So, if you look at the last 100 years, we've come from, we went from the printing press, which was our only form of communication, to radio. And then we went from radio to television, and it gave us pictures, and that revolutionized the human communication medium. And then we went from there to the internet, which, as we all know, is a passing fad and it will never take off. But the internet has really given the world a communication platform for which to expand on, and that moved into mobile. And the next transformation of this is going to be virtual and augmented reality. So they expect that the VR and AR market, and you'll see some of the crazy predictions here, they're all over the map, but the predictions are that the VR and AR markets will surpass the mobile market in the next 5 years. So if you think about that, you won't have a phone anymore in your pocket that you look down at a 2D screen. You'll have a pair of glasses that your whole world will be that screen. And so we have to start programming and thinking in terms of 3 dimensions instead of programming and thinking in terms of a 2D screen. So that's the fundamental of where this is going in the future. AR versus VR. So the difference between virtual reality is that you put on a headset and you're in a completely different world. That's virtual reality. You can change the world. You can be in space, underwater, wherever you are, but it's a different world, and you can overlay text on top of that. Augmented reality is looking through a lens or camera at the world you're seeing and overlaying different digital aspects on top of that. So putting digital aspects on top of the real world. And mixed reality, which is what Microsoft and HoloLens are doing, allows you to put digital objects in context to the real world. So when you put a digital object, it knows this is a table. It knows that's a person. One of the things that I saw at AWE this year, it blew my mind. This guy held out his phone. He pointed it at the wall. And as he pointed at the wall started turning to Minecraft. So the whole room transformed to Minecraft. The tables turned into Minecraft blocks. The walls turned into Minecraft. And he could add blocks and he could break it. And I thought it was like, oh, that's really cool. Then a guy walked through, and the guy that was walking through turned into a Minecraft character in real time. So imagine when you're, 5 years from now, when everybody has a pair of glasses, I can set a setting to Minecraft, and all you guys are Minecraft characters. Or, if you're, a fan of Brad Pitt, everybody can be Brad Pitt. Or if you're outside and you've got the Ferrari app on, every car that drives by is going to be the Ferrari. So, it's going to get weird. I'm not going to lie. This is going to get strange. And as we figure out the technology and as we get really used to programming this stuff, it's going to surpass anything we can possibly think of now. So I'm really interested about that. History of VR, if you look back 100 years, or a little less than 100 years, the first stereoscopic microscope allowed us to see things in depth and allowed us, no, not in the real world, but in virtual world, allowing us to see things in depth. How many people here had a ViewMaster? You know, the little red thing, this thing here? Yeah, the ViewMaster. I had the zoo one. You could see the zebras and they were in 3 dimensions. It was awesome. So ViewMaster came out with a VR headset 2 years ago, which you can stick your phone in, and now it's the ViewMaster VR headset. If you go back to 1962, this crazy guy came up with this invention called the Sensorama, and it's the one right here. It was basically a giant TV, and you stuck your head in and it had hand grips, and you had this TV. It was stereoscopic, so it was split in two, and you could see stereoscopic views, had stereoscopic sounds, had 2 speakers, and it had vibration in the handles, and it had smell. It was a 4D experience. The guy spent all his money patenting and doing this, and then it went nowhere. So unfortunately, we don't have the Sensorama today. But if anybody wants, the patents are up now, so you can make the Sensorama for the 2017. The first head-mounted display in a lab was the Sword of Damocles, which is that beast there. It was an 800-pound monster. It came down from the ceiling, and you had to, basically, all it did was project 3-dimensional line diagrams, so you could see a cube in 3 dimensions. And it was, a couple $1 million, and it was in a lab, and the computer that ran it was in a refrigerated room. So we've come a long way. The first consumer device was the Nintendo Virtual Boy, which was the one in the bottom right-hand corner there. It was a commercial flop. Unfortunately, Nintendo failed on that one, but it made people sick, and there was a lot of limitations with it. But if you fast forward a little bit, Oculus Rift came out with this. Basically, this guy, Palmer Luckey, came out with this idea of, what if we could split a screen in a cell phone and create the 3D effect using some lenses? So he literally took some cheap lenses, duct taped a cell phone inside of a plastic case, and now he had the Oculus Rift, and did a Kickstarter, raised $2 million, and 2 years later sold the company for $2 billion to Facebook, which we found out later there was an additional $1 billion in stock options. So he did all right. And that kind of kicked off modern day VR. Everybody pays attention when a company acquires a new technology for $2 billion. So that kicked off Google's foray into this, and Google launched a thing called Google Cardboard, which was a cheap, low-cost lenses in a box with a cell phone inside, and that was launched in 2015. And in 2015, they launched that on April Fools, and everybody thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. And then they partnered with the New York Times and put 1 million of these out to the world in the New York Times for free on a Saturday. It was the most, and it still remains the largest user base for VR in the world, is the Google Cardboard. Last year, we had the launch of all the kind of majors. We had the launch of Gear VR, PlayStation, Oculus, and HTC Vive. They all launched last year. And then this year, we're seeing the launch of all of the new headsets, which are the Microsoft OEM headsets, which I'll get to in a second. And then this year, also, 2017 seems to be the year of augmented reality, where Apple launched their AR kit, which allows you to use a floor and know that that's a floor, and use your phone without any extra sensors to put dancing astronauts or whatever it is you want in your dancing hot dog. I don't know if you guys have Snapchat, but Snapchat also introduced that feature where you can put things in the front-facing camera. And if you go down to the CN Tower and you open Snapchat and you open the front-facing AR app, there's actually a hidden AR exhibit. It's an art exhibit by Jeff Koons. It's a giant pink, balloon animal. It's a giant one. You can pose it and put it in front of the CN Tower. It's only available within 1 kilometer of the CN Tower, and they've done that at different places around the world. So it's geo-fenced augmented reality. It's really cool. The market opportunities are massive for virtual augmented reality. We're at the very beginning. We're basically at the Commodore 64 of VR right now. So what you saw in there, while it's very cool and it's stunning, it's still early days. We haven't figured out how not to make people sick all the time. It does make about 30% of people sick. We fixed a lot of it with the refresh rates by making the sensors refresh faster. But it's still not where it needs to be in where it will be in the next 3 to 5 years, where consumer adoption hits that 100 million person mark. So if you look at the market opportunities now, about 60% of the business is actually consumer driven. So it's games and entertainment. But the other 40% is where it's going to be happening right now, and that's the enterprise. So healthcare, design, engineering, retail. These are all things that are happening right now, and I believe, and we've bet on this, that the enterprise and commercial applications will actually lead this charge into VR and AR versus most technologies where consumers drive the adoption. So this technology is a little bit different than anything we've ever seen. There's tons of different estimates on how fast the industry is growing. Most of them estimate around between 100 and 130% year-over-year growth over the next 5 years. So it's a massive growing industry. And if you look at kind of 2020, the general estimate is about $108 billion industry, which is about the size of the PC market now. And there was a crazy study by Citi Financial that showed the value of e-commerce to be 1.3 trillion by 2035. So we'll see. ARKit, as I said before, the ability to have Apple phones just do AR. They have about 300 million when they launched, and by the end of this year, we're looking at about 500 million devices that will be AR enabled. And I have it on good authority from the Google guys that, and they're going to kill me for announcing this. I didn't say who it was. It's Google guys. I don't know. They said that by the end of the year, they're hoping to have all of the different manufacturers on board with AR Core, which is Google's version of this, and they'll have a billion different headsets or a billion different phones that will be AR enabled by the end of this year. So that's pretty amazing. At the very latest, it'll be Q1 next year. So Google Cardboard is the lowest end of the spectrum. This is basically a piece of cardboard or a piece of plastic. You put your phone in, you hold up lenses, and the lenses blow it up and keeps it in stereoscopic. High-end mobile, this is kind of the next step up. You're still using a mobile phone, and Google Daydream is kind of the new player on the block. And then the Samsung Gear VR is the one that's been around for 2 years now. They have the most traction. It is, besides the Google Cardboard, is the highest selling VR headset in the world. They have about 8 million units in circulation right now. They gave away 1 million units when you bought an S7 phone, S6 or S7, I can't remember. Was it 7? Yeah, so when they launched the S7, they gave away a bunch of free headsets. So that kind of kickstarted their ecosystem. They partnered with Oculus on the ecosystem and the distribution. Mass consumer VR, so the PlayStation launched. They've sold a little over 1.2 million units. It could be a little higher. This number's from July. They are the leader in high-end VR, and I don't know if anybody's tried it, but it's a really, really good experience, and you don't need to buy an extra computer. It works with your PS4. So that's how they've managed to make it so quickly. Mass consumer VR is coming this fall. So the OEM partners of Microsoft, so Lenovo, Acer, Samsung, Dell, HP, Asus, and there's a couple more coming on board soon. They're all launching their mixed reality headsets, which are using the same technology from the HoloLens, which you see the two front-facing cameras. It's using inside-out tracking, meaning you can actually move around in 3D space without having external trackers. And this is going to be a really interesting play because they're all under $499, I believe. Yes, yeah, they're all under $500 US. And they will work with cheaper PCs. So the specs for the PCs are actually much less, which is an interesting phenomenon because when you buy these ones, you need a really expensive high-end PC and a really high-end graphics card. So the NVIDIA graphics cards and the AMD graphics cards that are used to run these are running around $600 to $1,000 just for the graphics card. So it's really expensive. And if you look, you've got kind of 3 high-end models. There's another one coming out called the Pimax. They just exceeded their Kickstarter goal of 2 million. I think they're at 3 million now. They have an 8K headset that they're announcing or that they're selling. Oculus Rift launched in May last year, and they've dropped the price from $799 down to $399 in a year. So the prices are going down. The computers that power them the prices are going down. So they're really driving consumer awareness of this, and it's really going to pick up really quick over the next 3 years. Star VR is only being used by IMAX. It's they say it's a 4K headset, but it's actually 2K per screen. And then the one that we use for mostly everything is the HTC Vive. It has millimeter accuracy, so the tracking in it allows you to do things in millimeter accuracy, which for corporate and enterprise applications is necessary. This is the new one on the block, standalone VR. So the same thing that you have with the Daydream and the Gear VR, this is literally that without having to stuff your phone in there, because one of the problems with stuffing your phone in there is that, you want to watch it, your phone is stuffed in there and it gets overheated and whatever. These guys have built it as a complete standalone. I'm going to tell you a quick difference between the mobile-based headphones, so something like this and something like this. These ones allow you what's called 6 degrees of freedom. So that means you can look left, right, up and down, and move in those directions as well. So you can crouch down, you can move around a space, whereas this one here only allows you 3 degrees of freedom, left, right, up and down. Okay, so that's the difference between the mobile versus the PC-based. The next phase of this is going to be high-end, standalone VR. So basically, you've got a really high-end headset with full positional tracking that is tetherless. So it is not tethered to a computer. You still need a computer to run it, but it's running everything wireless. And then HTC is announcing theirs as well, but it's only going to be available in China. So I guess they're proving the market. The market in China is exponentially larger than the market in North America. They have thousands of different sites where you can do VR. We have, I think, maybe 10 in Canada and maybe 40 VR places in North America. And if you look at Facebook's long-term goal, their goal is to put 1 billion people in VR. So if you take that, they didn't say a timeline, they didn't say by when, but that's their goal, and they're going to push towards it. They've already invested $3 billion, and they're going to invest a lot more to get this into the mainstream public. And what they see is, instead of going on Facebook and connecting with your friends on Facebook, you can actually go and travel around the world with your friends. Augmented reality, this is where the money is being made right now, and this is where I feel the money is going to be made in the next coming time. So you've got augmented reality glasses for enterprise. So you put these glasses on, now I can put 3D menus for training, 3D menus for operation of materials, for pick and pack, things like that. I grab a box off, it recognizes the box, it tells me exactly, gives me a heads-up display where to put the box, how many to grab. The implications of this across the enterprise are undeniable. And Boeing just released a study that showed a 25% decrease in training times when you used augmented reality versus paper manuals. So there's a lot of money going into this space here, and this is where it's going to happen really, really quickly. Mixed reality, which is where the HoloLens and Meta and Magic Leap come in. Magic Leap is this kind of weird, mysterious company that nobody's ever seen anything from. They raised $2 billion, so somebody saw something they liked, I don't know. But the one that we've had a lot of experience with is the Microsoft HoloLens. And the HoloLens allows you a fully tether-free computing platform that allows you to see things in 3 dimensions, walk around them, collaborate, and it's really opening doors. And one of the use cases that we saw for this that was mind-blowing is a company called Dyson Krupp. It's an elevator company. And they used it as a maintenance. I don't even know if they ever used it. They just made it as a demo maybe. But it was an elevator maintenance repair. And it was really cool. The guy pulled up the elevator and saw it, and you could see the data about the elevator. But what that spawned was actually not elevator repair at all. What it did was they actually started using it for measuring, as you get older, you have a multi-story house, maybe you can't walk, and you need one of those little elevators that lifts you up the stairs, a stair lift. So Dyson Krupp makes those stair lifts, and they spend hours measuring all the stairs and all this to get this installed. So the HoloLens does all the measurements instantly. So they've actually decreased the time they've spent in a person's home by 4 times. They've decreased the time by 4 times. So now they walk in, they can measure this. Not only that, but they can now put the HoloLens on the customer and say, here's what the elevator lift is going to look like in your house. And that's pretty amazing. Augmented reality, this is where the world learns to program in 3D. So the problem that we have now is all the programmers and coders around the world are used to programming on a 2D screen. Even though it may look 3D, they're used to programming for a 2D world. What happens when the world extends out to 3 dimensions? And it needs to know that you're standing there and put something beside you or behind you and use things in context. And so ARKit, AR Core are the foundations of that. And we've just introduced WebAR, which is our platform for doing this without an app. This is a couple of things we've done. This is our augmented reality menu option that we did, and it was really neat. You could zoom in on the food, you could see the caloric intake, all of the information. Using
high-resolution photogrammetry techniques and rendering techniques, we've been able to recreate products and create them in 3D so that you can see them in augmented reality. You can also see them in virtual reality. You can also see them on 3D websites. It doesn't look like that one's going to work, but this is our browser-based web AR. Not going to work? Oh, too bad. Anyway, so basically what you can do is you now have the ability to put products using no app. So that was a real pain in the butt to make, but we got it done and now it's available. Augmented reality business cards. This is going to be an everyday thing for people. Ours explode because why wouldn't you want exploding business cards? Why not, right? Virtual try-ons is a big business. One of our partners developed this app where you can try on different glasses in real time. And very much like Snapchat, it puts it on your face and allows you to try on different glasses, different lenses, and buy the glasses right from the online store.
Where virtual reality ends, real reality begins. Experience the NHL Centennial exhibit in RR. When you're looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves, you're looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves.
I'm looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves.
How? RR lets you see things that are actually there. Real reality, only at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Some of the best advertising for VR is not even, it's just making fun of VR, so I think it's awesome that we kind of have this fun narrative around this, because it's being driven by by fun. All the people that got into VR are from different different worlds, and they're like, wow, VR is amazing. I'm getting it. I used to be a DJ. I created DJ software, and I tried VR. I was like, that's it. I'm doing that. And everybody kind of had that same aha moment. Was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to make this. Unfortunately, most of the people got into games, and games aren't making any money. So now they're going, oh shit, what do I do? So that's good for us, because now we can ask them to develop enterprise apps for us. No problem. So let's get into the numbers. The companies that are most heavily invested in VR and AR right now are, the big ones: Google, Facebook, Apple, HTC, Samsung. So if you look at Facebook, they spent $3 billion to acquire Oculus Rift. They're spending another $1 billion to build the platform. Apple hired 1,000 AR developers in the last 24 months. They just acquired a company called SMI, which is the largest eye tracking company in the world. Because not only are you going to have a pair of glasses that give you augmented reality, they're also going to track where you're looking and give marketers an unprecedented view of what you're actually looking at. And one of the creepiest things that somebody said is, these glasses, as you get older, you'll be wearing these glasses as a kid, and Google will know you're gay before you are, because it'll know what you're looking at. Man, that's crazy. Okay. Google's invested, when Apple invested in SMI, Google bought iFluence, the second largest eye tracking company. There's another one called Toby. If anybody wants to acquire it, that would be a good acquisition. HTC just sold their cell phone business to Google in order to double down on virtual reality. Intel is powering all of this stuff with all their chips, and so is Qualcomm. I don't have them listed here. Samsung's introduced their Gear VR, their Gear 360, and they have a new product called the Samsung Round, which was announced last week, which is a professional 360 camera. Nokia's got a camera. And Microsoft is doing everything to basically make this platform play. So they've got their HoloLens, they've licensed their technology to all of the OEM partners, and now they're focusing on Azure Cloud and Azure Studio so that people can make this and host these really high quality projects in 3 dimensions in 360. Venture firms that are making the most investments right now: Google Ventures, obviously. SoftBank is investing billions of dollars right now. Intel Capital is dropping in a bunch. HTC Capital. There's a fund called the VR Fund. Alibaba's investing in a bunch of stuff. All of the big companies. These are by far and away. These are the ones that have more than 5 investments currently in VR right now. Take a picture if you want. I'm going to change the slide in 3, 2, 1. I know this is a bit small, I apologize, but these are the venture firms making investments now. So these are the invested companies right now. So Improbable just raised $554 million from SoftBank. And Improbable is like a Unity. It's a platform for allowing content creators to create the virtual world. And it's also known as the Metaverse, which is where our name came from. The Metaverse is the persistent virtual world that you are in when you're in virtual and augmented reality. Kind of a cool name for a company, you would think. Unity is the platform from which people are making this content. About 70% of all VR is made on Unity. There's another one called Unreal Engine, which is kind of more photoreal. It's an interesting stat that 70% of all the VR is being made on Unity, 70% of all the money in VR is being made in Unreal. You do the math. So there's a company called Meta that's raised 83 million. I told them they need to raise $500 million because they're directly competing with Microsoft HoloLens and Magic Leap. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, Magic Leap is kind of this crazy outlier. They've raised 1.9 billion in the last 24 months. They are literally half of the entire VR market invested is in one company. So they must have something cool. I don't know. Nobody's seen it. You know, we're on their developer list. We'll see. I don't know. A company called Upskill just raised 59 million to do augmented reality training. Lytro is a camera company, and what they raised $200 million to make what's called light field cameras. So basically, using a camera to take video that allows you to look around it in 3 dimensions and gives it depth. That will be very important as we progress, because 360 video is cool, you can look around, and even 3-dimensional 360 video, you're like, yeah, this is cool, but as these headsets progress and allow you to have agency and allow you to walk around and move around, that's not going to be enough, it's not going to cut it. So Lytro is solving that problem, and Adobe actually just came out with a plugin that allows you to take a 360 camera, put it on rails, and as you travel on a sideways path, it extrapolates the data and creates a 3-dimensional map out of it. Don't ask me how, there's some crazy nerds going on there. And Mapbox is kind of a foundational platform that allows you to embed mapping and tracking software in anything. So they just raised 160 million. Here's some examples of some of the apps that are raising money. Level 11 right now, it's actually called Level 11. They raised $11 million in their Series A to make dental education apps and medical education apps. These guys are, it's nothing special, but they're in a niche market. They know where to get the market. They probably have some team members that understand how to leverage that market. Upskill raised 50 million? Sorry, I think it's Upskill, yeah, 60 million. This is an example of what they're seeing in results. 34% faster results with the glasses versus a paper manual. You can't deny that. Enterprise will not ignore this. Enterprise will do this, and they will do it on scale, and it will be done in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be explosive growth. This is a video straight from Magic Leap. Basically, it allows you, I don't know, it looks like the HoloLens to me. It looks, I don't know, understand why it's worth 1.9 billion. I really want to see this, so we'll see. Apparently the field of view is a little bit bigger and the resolution is nicer. If they have something that's photoreal in 3 dimensions, it's going to be incredible.